this right, it's actually going to raise the corporate net income tax 0.5%. It's next to nothing. From the standpoint of our businesses participating, it asks our businesses to genuinely participate just a teeny bit. It also asks our wealthy to step forward and try to put a little more skin in the game if you're our wealthiest. At the end of the day, it asks our people to really be able to significantly and aggressively lower our state income tax. For the lower bracket, it increases our ability to lower our income tax by almost 40%. And the highest bracket, which by the wisdom of some really good people in this chamber, in this room right here, have been able to lower, to put in a fourth bracket that we started out at $300,000, and now we've brought that fourth bracket down to $200,000. And so our wealthiest people are going to have to pay a little more, and so now our wealthiest people are going to be in the game as well. Now, I've said a whole bunch of times, in order for us to get out of this god-awful mess, we're all going to have to pull the rope together, and everybody knows that. Now, by all of us pulling the rope together, I've always said it's the wealthy, it's the people, it's the businesses, and it's the government, that we try with all in us to rein in wasteful spending as best we possibly can. And for those of you that know me, all I would say is, give me time and give me a chance. I am not one in any way that wants to just grow government for the sake of growing government. I'm anything but that. I truly think that we are on the cusp of something that is remarkable. Now, you can buy into what I'm saying or not, and it's up to you. But I want you to know this. I was with Don Trump Jr. about 4 days ago. You know what he said? I said, Don, why can't we bring more people to West Virginia? What's the problem, Don? What's the problem? And he said, the people on the outside don't think of West Virginia in a positive way. He said, your image is not good. Now, he said it much more bluntly than that, to tell you the truth. Now, let me tell you, in our darkest hour, in the most bleakest time we have ever been in West Virginia today, we have an opportunity in raising the consumer sales tax to 6.95, asking our businesses to be in the game just a little teeny bit, asking us to just squeeze just a little bit more from the standpoint of waste that we could squeeze, have the opportunity to significantly reduce our state income tax. And you know what is the absolute key to Emerald City here? It's the roads. It's the jobs. That's the key to everything. Nothing works without that. That's what backfills and does everything for us. Everything. Now just listen to me. And either believe me or not, and that's up to you. You see, at the end of the day, probably every one of you, and myself included, if we leave here and we leave the state in a terrible way, there's lots and lots of people that are really hurting, and it's just going to get worse. We're the only state that's losing population. We're the darkest of the darkest. And here, all of a sudden, all of us could end up on the cover of the Rolling Stone. Okay. And what I mean by that is just this. At the darkest of the darkest of the darkest hour, we did something that was unbelievable. We created an enormous amount of jobs. We didn't have to destroy our weakest in DHHR. We helped our vets and we helped our teachers. In the darkest of the darkest hour, we went out and did put in place 48,000 new jobs in building new roads and fixing our existing potholes and everything. In the darkest of the darkest hour, look what we did. Now, if you were to vote no, let me tell you what you're voting for. Now just think with me. A no vote is basically a vote that says, I want to cut DHHR and I want to cut it hard. A no vote is saying, I want to cut our universities and I want to cut them hard. A no vote is saying, I want to cut K through 12 and I want to cut it hard, because that's what you got to do. A no vote is saying, I want to cut rainy. I want to take some more out of rainy day. A no vote is saying, nope, I don't want to put any money in tourism because I don't want to market our state. A no vote is saying, vets, tough luck. We're not going to exempt your retirement. Tough luck. A no vote is saying no to our teachers as far as their pay raise. A no vote is saying no to the dogs. A no vote is saying, forget the Women's Commission, we don't need it. A no vote is saying to our coal companies, nope, we're not interested in your tiering. We're not interested in helping you when things are tough. That's what a no vote's saying. A no vote's saying, we're not interested in 48,000 new jobs in West Virginia. And it's also saying, we aren't even interested in you going on the turnpike for $8 and going for free. That's what a no vote is saying here. But you know what a no vote is saying worse than any of that? A no vote is saying, no, West Virginians, we're not interested in allowing any of y'all to lower your income tax. Now, we have triggers built in. I have run these numbers until I'm blue-green, and a lot of great people right in here have done the same, and a lot of great people in the House that's sitting in the back have done the same as well. We all, House, Senate, me, all of us need to work together here. I am telling you, you're on the cusp of passing legislation here that is unbelievable. Not only Don Trump Jr., but the world would never believe that the dead last state that only hoped like crazy that maybe Mississippi would some way beat us out. The dead last state in its darkest time could come up with a plan that is just this good. Now that's what we got. And I would just say to you just these things. You just think about this. What does this do? It balances the budget. It absolutely controls spending. Do you know the total spend of what we're talking about here is like 4.34, and we were at like 4.32 before. It's no different. It's no difference whatsoever. So it balances the budget. It controls the spending. It creates tens and tens of thousands of jobs. And the last thing it does, it lowers taxes. Now, how in the world could we not embrace this moment? Think about it. You're either going to do that, or you're going to go back and you're going to hammer DHHR, the universities, K through 12, the teachers, the vets, the tourism, the coal companies, forget the roads, forget the easy pass, and forget the income tax. It is an opportunity beyond all opportunities. Now, you can buy into it or not. And at the end of the day, life's going to go on for all of us in this room, and it's probably going to be okay. It is a daunting responsibility. You have done good work, and you're good people. Now do your job, and do it well. Because today is the day of opportunity in West Virginia that is beyond total belief. The last thing I'll say to you is I don't very often say anything this profound. Gordon Gee sent me a text, and that text said, legislation is hard. Making sausage is ugly. And I texted him back and I said just this. I said, Gordon, the unfortunate thing about making ugly sausage is there's a name, and there's a family, and there's a school, and there's a university at the end of that. And I truly believe that we, as fellow men and ladies, absolutely do not have to sacrifice and hurt today those, the families, the names, the universities, the school, all for the sake of making sausage. We don't need this to be something that we can wave a banner. I did this as a Dem, or I did this as a Republican, or I did this for me. We don't need that. This is our time right now. Now, you buy it or not buy it, but it is one hell of a plan. I hope you see it the same way that I do. I love you to death, and I mean it. God bless you. Thank you for having me.
Senate will come to order. The Senate will come to order.
Thank you, Mr. President. Requesting unanimous consent, the Senate return to consideration of Senate Bill 1007.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. Senator from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the constitutional rule requiring a bill be read on 3 separate days be suspended. The bill be read a second and third time and put upon its passage.
Senator from Ohio moves that a constitutional rule requiring a bill be read on 3 separate days be suspended. A bill be read a second and third time and placed upon its adoption. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the bill. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, there being 30 yeas, 0 nays, 4 absent and not voting, more than 4/5 of those elected, present, and voting, having voted in the affirmative, I declare the motion adopted. Clerk will read the bill a second time.
Senate Bill 1007, Tax Reform Act of 2017, second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
Yes, sir. Senator Carnes moved to amend the bill by striking out everything after the enacting clause.
The Senator from Upshur.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent to explain the amendment in lieu of having it read.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. The Senator may proceed.
Thank you. What the amendment does is, I'm sure most of the members are aware, there was a discussion throughout the day as to precisely what the shape of the triggers would be so that it conformed to the negotiations that we have had over the last several weeks, in fact. And so this simply cleans that up and clarifies how the triggering system will work to some degree, and I urge adoption.
Clerk has an amendment to the amendment.
Senators Prezioso, Beach, Facemeyer, Jeffries, Ojeda, Palumbo, Plymel,
Senator
Romano,
from Marion.
Stallings.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent to explain the amendment in lieu of having it read.
Is there objection? And is there objection? The Senator from Marion requests unanimous consent to explain the amendments in lieu of having them read, and that all amendments be considered as one. Is there objection? Chair hears none. The Senator may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. My amendment is very simple. It returns the tax code to its original basis that we've had over the past decade or so, and exempts all persons receiving Social Security. We feel this is a more adequate approach to addressing the income tax problem across the state. It puts money in the pockets of our most vulnerable, the people that have retired in this state, our coal miners, our factory workers, our people that are on fixed incomes. They have to buy food and also have to buy prescriptions. If we continue to raise the consumption tax, this will give them somewhat of a cushion to purchase those goods and services. It also provides relief because some of those folks, due to certain situations, the income tax or the retirement benefits have been in jeopardy, and that's the only source of income they receive. In researching a lot of this, we found out that we're just one of 13 states in the United States that tax Social Security benefits. You know, a lot of folks in West Virginia, our coal miners, have been here for years. They love the states. They love West Virginia. They love the seasons. They're hunters, they're fishermen, and to provide them an opportunity to live in a state without Social Security benefits is a certain plus. And when you reduce these benefits, or reduce the tax burden on folks that have Social Security, they're going to turn that money over. They're going to spend more of it. They need to spend more. They're on fixed income. They've got to buy, like I said, the prescriptions and things of that sort. And we feel that this amount of money that we put back into the economy will in turn, have a positive effect. We also found out that there are about 312,000 people in the state that receive Social Security benefits. There's a tremendous amount of money that West Virginia receives from the federal government, about $6.2 billion in Social Security benefits. And just think, giving that money back to our most vulnerable citizens, the people that need the help, those folks will go out and spend that money and will get a greater return for every dollar that they spend. I urge the adoption of the amendment.
Further discussion? Further discussion? The senator from Upshur.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the senator from Marion yield?
Does the senator yield? The senator does yield.
Thank you, Senator. I just wanted to clarify so I understood what I think I heard, and this amendment undoes the other changes that we're trying to do to the income tax. Is that what I heard, and only exempts Social Security income?
That's correct. We've sent, I think, 2 revenue bills to the House. I think their message was perfectly clear that they're not going to accept the version that we sent over that reduces the income tax. We're hoping that they like this amendment better.
I got you. Thank you, Senator. Permission to speak.
Senator may
To the
proceed.
amendment. Thank you, Mr. President. So I just want to touch on a couple of things because, I think first, by undoing the changes that we're proposing, we would obviously be foregoing the benefits that we expect to see from the reduction in the income tax for all West Virginians, and as opposed to simply a select group. And while I certainly would applaud the notion of reducing or eliminating the income tax altogether, or even for our seniors, I would like to just point out, earlier in the session, we had that as part of one of our proposals, and because I think it's a laudable goal. However, I would bring up that in discussions with some of the folks that represent senior citizens in West Virginia, AARP in particular, they weren't particularly enthusiastic about the idea. And I asked them why, and they said because of the way the tax code is currently written as it relates to the federal tax code, seniors that are low-income seniors that receive Social Security benefits are already exempt on almost their entire, if not their entire Social Security income. And so their view was that exempting Social Security in this manner does not actually help low-income seniors in the way that you might think it would, because they already don't pay income tax on that income anyway. And so the benefit of some additional money in the economy may possibly be real, but I don't think that it's nearly as great as the benefit that we'll see with the reduction in the income tax. And so a laudable goal, but a poor trade in this particular instance, and so I would oppose the gentleman's amendment. Thanks.
Further discussion? Further discussion? The senator from Ohio County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator from Marion yield?
Senator yield. Senator does yield.
Thank you, Senator. The under your proposal, if a senior citizen eligible for Social Security benefits earns $1 million a year from other sources of income, will they receive the same tax cut under your plan as someone who earns $20,000 a year?
I believe they will.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. President, if I may speak to the bill.
Senator may
To
proceed.
the amendment. Mr. President, I rise in opposition to the amendment. While I think it, as the senator from Upshur said, it's a great goal and it's something that we contemplated earlier in the year, it doesn't have the same added benefits as cutting taxes to all working men and women in West Virginia. And as the gentleman just mentioned, this plan also is an unfair tax cut in the sense that there's senior citizens who earn, potentially are very upper class, could earn millions of dollars a year and receive the same tax cut as those at a low income that they're trying to help. So for those reasons, I would urge opposition to the amendment.
Further discussion? The senator from Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand up here today with all the discussion. We've had more time to discuss this bill amongst ourselves than we have to consider it here on the floor. But the one thing that's clear is this is a trickle-down economics bill. That's what it is. My friend from Ohio, I'm a little surprised he's worried about a senior citizen getting a tax break on their Social Security if they make $1 million. I bet you can count those folks on one hand in this state. But we're not worried about giving the folks who make now over $250,000 a real big tax break at a time when we have real big deficits, which doesn't make any sense to me. We have to be taxing somebody here. And if you're giving people like me back a refund, this has got to be falling on the backs of the middle income and lower income folks, because we're raising all kinds of taxes. We're raising their taxes, other taxes, more than we're giving them an income tax break. Now, the amendment that's been offered by this caucus does something that's a little better. It doesn't give the richest 1% the biggest tax break, but it does give all senior citizens a tax break. It exempts their Social Security from taxation. The vast majority of those seniors need that money, are desperate for that money, to be able to choose between food, so they don't have to choose between food and their prescription drugs. And most importantly, they're going to spend it immediately in the economy and give this economy an economic boost, because don't forget, we're mostly a senior populated state. So this amendment has tremendous benefits, not only for the seniors in our state, but also for our budget. And that's what we ought to be doing. We ought to be resolving our budget deficit, not fooling around with tax reform. You know, in the trickle-down theory, there's been all kinds of studies. You just got to Google it, and you'll see that the trickle-down theory does not work, from experts, not from us, but from the International Monetary Fund in 2015, Forbes magazine in 2012, and the Congressional Research Services Office in 2012 have all said that if you want to spur on your economy, you want to create economic activity, do not try to do it with the trickle-down economic theory. Because you know why? I don't need a refund. The people in here who make the kind of money that are going to get a refund, we don't need it. What are we going to do with it? Put it in our bank accounts where we have it already? Go out and, you know, have a big meal? I mean, what are we going to do with it? How's that going to benefit our state? We need to benefit the working people of this state by putting money in their pockets, which will make our economy thrive, will give our economy a boost. You know, we need to look to our mineral wealth to balance this budget. And if we don't accomplish this for our working people, we've given a tremendous opportunity, a brief pass by, and not taken full advantage of it for all the citizens of our state. Thank you.
The senator from Logan.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I just want to say that if there are wealthy elderly people out there, they're not from my area. As a person who works in the school system, I will tell you that the majority of people that I know that are on Social Security, a lot of them are actually raising their grandkids because of the drug epidemic that we have across this state. So I believe that this would be something that would help those elderly people that are taking that role right now as the mother and the father, because the mother and father are strung out on drugs or in jail. I think this is a good amendment, and I definitely urge passage.
The senator from Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in opposition to the amendment offered by the gentleman from Marion. Although I got to say at the outset of this discussion and debate, I love the debate that we're having. We are having a debate here on the floor of the West Virginia Senate about whose income taxes we're going to cut and whose we're going to cut first and whose we'll cut quickest or most. No objection to the idea of eliminating tax altogether on Social Security income, but if we could do it all now, we would have done it. We can't. Our budgetary situation is such that we can't, although we must recognize here on the floor of this body that the Tax Reform Committee, the Select Tax Reform Committee, worked very hard throughout the whole session to see if there was a way to eliminate all income taxes. The reason I oppose the gentleman's amendment to the amendment is that if it's not adopted, do you know who gets tax relief, income tax relief in West Virginia? Everybody. Every single person, including every senior who receives a Social Security check will get some relief. not complete elimination, but every West Virginian, including those seniors, will get relief on their income taxes. And that's what we need to do. This bill, if it's adopted without significant amendments, is going to bring West Virginia's personal income tax down below Maryland, Virginia, Kentucky. Isn't it extraordinary for us to be having this debate, this discussion? I agree wholeheartedly with my friend from Marion County. Seniors need relief. Social Security recipients need relief. They absolutely do. But so do those young couples with a couple kids working low-paying jobs in many cases. They need relief too. This bill, if it's not amended, will cut the income tax rates for every West Virginian. And the bulk of it, the biggest piece of it, in the lowest income tax bracket, taking it down from 3% now to 2.25 and then further down. It is a noble start. It's not where we want to end up. It's not where we want to finish, but I think it is a courageous, and I agree with the governor who was here a little while ago and said this is historic. It is historic. We are on the verge of historic action, Mr. President, for the citizens of West Virginia, for every citizen of West Virginia. Let's keep this bill focused on every citizen of West Virginia. I urge rejection of the amendment to the amendment.
Further discussion. The senator from Wetzel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too rise in opposition. Let's look at it from this standpoint. For me to have to pay any tax on Social Security as a single person, I have to have $25,000 in other income before any of my Social Security is taxable. If I am a married couple, that's $32,000 that I have to have in other income before any of my Social Security becomes taxable. And that reason is those people that are the most vulnerable are already not paying tax on their Social Security. Thank you.
Further discussion. The senior senator from the 16th.
Thank you, Mr. President. This past weekend, I had talked to an elderly lady in the course on Sunday, and she was literally in tears because she had read that the West Virginia Legislature was going to raise the sales tax on items, and she wasn't sure of what items would be taxed. She said she had unlimited income. She could barely make her payments now. Matter of fact, I think she also skips on buying some of her prescription drugs because she can't afford them. And so she was really very concerned about this, and that a lot of discussion is to raise the consumer sales tax so that we can give an income tax break for everyone, including the wealthy. Of course, a larger percentage of the wealthy's income, or as far as the larger percent of the middle to low income households, goes toward consumption than for the wealthy. And the other thing is, particularly people in their senior years spend a larger proportion of money in later years than they do in the middle years, as well as being young. But let me tell you some fact checking. So it was mentioned that the AARP wasn't all that excited about this. Well, having looked at this, I have a statement here from the AARP that says the fair taxation of Social Security benefits is a priority for AARP. And then AARP policy states that. So let's read this. The policy states that Social Security cash benefits should be exempt from state income tax. So that kind of debunks that particular statement, saying AARP is not interested in it. Let's look at some of the facts also from the 2016 AARP West Virginia State Fact Sheet. This would impact 464,823 West Virginians. That's who receives Social Security benefits. 55% of West Virginians rely on Social Security for 50% or more of their income. Now let me read that again. 55% of West Virginians rely on Social Security for 50% or more of their income. 30% of West Virginians rely on Social Security for 90% or more of their income. 28 states have it where income tax are exempt from Social Security benefits and they're entirely taken off. Mr. President, this is going to impact every West Virginian. Yeah, 65 and older, those who are collecting Social Security, it benefits them immediately. But guess what, Mr. President? I'm going to get there, you're going to get there, we're all going to benefit from it eventually. Maybe some of us a little quicker than others. But the idea of this is we are looking at, per capita wise, we have more seniors in our state than in other states. And we lead the nation in that area. Mr. President, if we're going to talk about income tax and we're going to start cutting income tax, let's start cutting it for those that makes the biggest difference, because as the senator from Marion has said, these individuals are not going to take trips to the Bahamas necessarily with their tax income. They're going to actually spend that so they can, like the lady, the elderly lady that I talked to, that maybe she can buy all the prescription drugs and she doesn't have to skimp on her prescription drugs, so that she can pay her electricity, so she can pay her water, so she can pay the things that she has to pay and not have to worry, because we're going to increase the consumer sales tax on her and everyone, where she has to pay more. Mr. President, I just urge from a humanitarian point of view that as we go down this path, and it seems like we are working on eliminating income tax in West Virginia, then let's start with those that are middle class and low income families and households, particularly the elderly. Let's start with the most vulnerable and let's give them a break. And then we can start working up to the more wealthy people as we go along. So I urge the adoption of the amendment. And Mr. President, also I would ask for the yeas and the nays.
Further discussion? Further discussion? The senator from Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm sitting here trying to cipher this out. I'm not the smartest man in the world, but this here is a governor's bill that we are voting on, that the Democrat governor is 100% for it the way it is, and his party is trying to change it. And us as Republicans are supposed to support it when the governor can't get his party to support it. So I'm starting to get, you might say, some concerns about it. I honestly believe this is just a ploy. They know, this side knows that this side is going to vote against this. 2 years or a year and a half from now, we'll have millers. Some of us voted against senior citizens. So it's just a continuation of a political ploy. And it's sad, you know, that's the way it's got to be, but it's, you know, it's just the way the system is. So I'm going to encourage my colleagues to vote for this. I mean, the governor's party wants this. It's a governor's bill. And I'd say let's give them what they want. I mean, let's help the seniors here, and let's vote for this amendment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further discussion? Further discussion? I recognize the senator from Marion to close debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I know it's getting late, and we've had a lot of debate. and we've talked about reducing taxes, and I think whatever party you're from, that's a great idea. The way that we've gone about reducing taxes is piecemeal. You know, we're going to take 15% from income tax the first year, and then we've got some triggers in there, and you know, it's going to go on and on and on. It's hard to tell where it'll end up when you get a zero income tax. So the objective behind it was, if we had no income tax, we're going to get an influx of rich folks to come back to West Virginia. Well, by doing it in this method, we don't see that immediate result. We're trying to perfect this bill to make it better for the citizens of our state, and we're trying to stabilize a budget. You know, this amendment actually increases the amount of revenue that can be used in balancing the budget. And many of you have seen, and I've seen a number lately, of our 6-year plan. And regardless of what 6-year plan that I reviewed, it balances the budget for the year, for our next year, and then in the out years, it exponentially decreases the amount, and we're in a deficit again. So it doesn't make any sense to me to try to do the things that we're trying to do and have a deficit outcome in the later years. So we have had limited access to actuarials, but we've gleaned from the Tax Reform Committee and from the governor's office, if you eliminate the Social Security benefits, it will eliminate about $90 million of revenue. What you are proposing in the existing bill as it stands, and if we eliminate those four income tax brackets, it's going to get you about $108 million. So you're going to have about a net of $20 more million to put back into the out years. So this amendment the amendment to the amendment that we're proposing actually gives you more revenue, and it's beyond revenue neutral. Secondly, you know, we debated downstairs in the governor's office on several occasions about the rich man tax, and we had started out, our proposal was that we had anyone that made over $300 million would pay about 6.25%, which they pay about 6.5% now, and we thought that would be a deduction for them. And then we came back, and the compromise was we're going to go to $250, and we're going to bring it down to 6%. And, you know, as the debate went on, we were down in the governor's office today, and we're looking for revenues, and he said, well, let's drop it down to $200 million or so. And the difference between $250 million and $200 million was about $3 million in tax increases. So it wasn't really enough. So we think that this amendment is fiscally responsible. And lastly, what I'd say is if we continue to do things the way we've done in the past, make the same mistakes, sending the same bill over, why do we expect different results? If we send this bill over, we've been told that they're going to not accept our proposal for the income tax. That's a non-starter. So this gives them an option. And lastly, Mr. President, I'd like to say that a vote for this is a vote for our seniors, our most vulnerable population, the people that have to live in West Virginia, that have to buy goods and services. They've got to buy prescriptions, and they've got to buy foods. And I would urge the adoption to the amendment to the amendment.
Question before the Senate is adoption of the amendment to the amendment. The yeas and nays have been demanded. Is the demand sustained? The demand is sustained. All those in favor of the amendment to the amendment as offered by the senator from Marion will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, there being 12 yeas, 18 nays, 4 absent and not voting, less than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the amendment to the amendment rejected. Are there further amendments to the amendment?
No, sir.
Question now is on the adoption of the amendment as offered by the senator from Upshur. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the amendment adopted. Are there further amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
If not, the bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading. Clerk will read the bill a third time.
Engrossed Senate Bill 1007, Tax Reform Act of 2017, third reading of the bill.
Question for the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? So the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, there being 19 yeas, 11 nays, 4 absent and not voting, more than the majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill be made effective July 1, 2017.
Senator from Ohio moves that the bill be made Clerk has a title amendment.
Senator Carnes moved to amend the title of the bill.
Question for the Senate is adoption of the title amendment. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the title amendment adopted. Question now is, shall the bill be made effective from July 1, 2017? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? So the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, there being 30 yeas, 0 nays, 4 absent and not voting, more than 2/3 of those elected having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill effective from July 1, 2017. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House. Senator from...
What's that? Everybody.
Senator from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate stand adjourned until tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Senator from Ohio moves the Senate stand adjourned until tomorrow at 11 a.m. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the Senate adjourned until tomorrow at 11 a.m.